Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Black Friday. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, there's probably no way I'm going to be able to put my monetization on this video because the stuff I'm going to talk about, a lot of times I get yellow lighted. And these are some of the most important things I consider some of the most important things I need to talk about. But there's no way that I'll probably be able to get this monetized by YouTube. But I still need to talk about this. It's a tweet by Donald Trump. And if it wasn't so pathetically naive, it would almost be funny. If it wasn't dealing with such a serious subject, the most important subject, the reason I think I'm still alive on this earth is to push the idea, to promote the idea that recovery is possible. Let me give you my background. I know most of you heard this before. I was addicted to crack cocaine and heroin and pills and alcohol and everything else for over 2.5 decades. I'm 58 years old now. I got clean and sober when I was 40 years old. On October 23rd of 2006 was the last time I ever used any drug, any pill. Last time I had any sip of alcohol. I've been clean and sober for over 18 years. I've been in and out of, back when I was using, I had been in and out of over 13 detoxes and rehabs over a period of about 5 years, up until from the time I was about 35 to 40, I was trying, I realized once I was using heroin and crack cocaine every day, I realized I was in trouble. And by that point, I was deep in the hole, and I was in and out. I would go into detoxes and rehabs about every 3 months and spend anywhere from a week to a couple months in these rehabs and detoxes over 13 times. And I got to know a lot of the other addicts and the mentality of people that use these drugs. Let me tell you about Donald Trump's tweet, okay? Now, you guys know, I am not a fan of Donald Trump. I can't stand him. I can't stand anything about him. Everything about him, I just can't stand. But this is something very personal to me. All right, let me read you this tweet. The link will be down below. Donald Trump at Real Donald Trump. I will be working on a large-scale United States advertising campaign explaining how bad fentanyl is for people to use. I'm assuming almost the whole United States probably knows that fentanyl is bad. Millions of lives being so needlessly destroyed. By the time the campaign is over, everyone will know how really bad the horror of this drug is. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Seriously. This reminds me so much, if you're my age, you remember Nancy Reagan and the whole Just Say No campaign. Back in the late 80s, I believe it was, Nancy Reagan, Ronald Reagan's the first lady, had this Don't Just Say No drug campaign. And it was laughed at, basically, that you could just have this catchphrase. It was to teach people ways to say no if they were offered drugs. Ways to be cool and still say no, I don't want to, I don't want to use. And I believe that drug use went down somewhat, but it was coincidental. Over the large reaction to this Just Say No campaign was pathetic, and that's what this reminds me of. The people that use these drugs, let me tell you, the first thing that came to my mind was something I saw. I was with one of my friends. We had been smoking crack, and we were going to get heroin. We picked up the heroin, like 10 bags, and I never shot. I just snorted it. But he injected it, and he told me to stop. We were in a parking lot. It was raining, and he opened the door, and he drew water up into the needle out of a puddle in the parking lot, and mixed up the heroin. Didn't cook it. Usually, to cook it, you get the impurities out. A lot of times, you don't have to cook it. My friends didn't cook it, and mixed it up, and he injected it into his neck. He had track marks. I guess it was on the jugular vein or whatever, where he would inject. So he sucked up this water off the road, a mud hole, and shot heroin into his neck. This is the kind of mentality you're dealing with. I remember hearing in rehab, I remember hearing the lecturers or the people in the nurses and doctors talking in rehab, and one of the things I heard often was, you can't scare an addict. Addicts are not scared of death. I remember the addicts that I was in there with, there was, I hate to say this, but there was this kind of perverse pride in being the worst of the worst. And I was one of these people, that we were using the most dangerous drug. It's kind of like driving fast in a car. See, when you get in a car, some people just always, you like to floor it, you get that rush. That's kind of the same rush. You could end up dead. That's the same kind of rush that people like me, I used to be, and these other addicts are. Half the rush was using very dangerous drugs, and not dying. Being somebody that used this terrible, horrific drug like heroin every day and enjoying it. There was this perverse pride that all of us had. This wasn't just me. This was a common attitude. Like, I'm sure people will watch this, and in the comments they'll understand what I'm saying if they've ever used heroin. There's this pride of, so what he's saying here about, people being scared, I think it's so ridiculous and naive. If you know the mindset of addicts, most of the people like me that started out with marijuana, I moved to cocaine, I snorted cocaine, then I started smoking it. I had a couple back surgeries. I got prescribed. Originally, I was just addicted to cocaine, then crack. And I wasn't big on heroin. And then I had back surgery, and I got prescribed Oxycontins and Percocets. And then I started selling the Oxycontins and Percocets to buy crack cocaine. And then I ended up actually moving on. Once they cut off my Vicodin, Percocet, and Oxycontins, I started using heroin. And like I said, there's the mindset of all the people I know, all the addicts I've ever used heroin with, is this kind of perverse pride. I don't know how else to put it, in using this scary, dangerous drug. In other words, what Donald Trump is saying here is something that would kind of turn on an addict. Like, yeah, that's right. I am, an addict would read this and kind of get a high off it, kind of get a boner off it, kind of get excited. It goes along with the attitude that, they're the baddest of the bad. Originally, when I first started smoking pot and using cocaine, when you first start smoking pot, you look down on the people that use cocaine or hard drugs. Well, I just smoke pot. At least I don't use hard drugs. Once you start using cocaine, you look down on the people that smoke it. Well, I just snort cocaine. I don't smoke it. Then I started smoking it. So then I smoke crack, but at least I don't use heroin. Okay. Then I started using heroin. And the people that snort heroin like I did, then they look down on the people that inject heroin. At least I snort heroin, but at least I don't inject it, like I just said. And then the people that inject heroin know that they're at, you could call it the bottom of the barrel or the top of the ladder. It depends which way you look at it. They're the baddest of the bad, the evilest of the evil, the most dangerous of the dangerous. And they take a perverse pride in that. Every addict I know, that's why they even started using this drug, because they got the rush off of messing with something that could take their lives. It can give you a wicked high and make you feel euphoric and fantastic like nothing else can. And it can also kill you. And that's part of the attraction to it. So what Donald Trump is saying here, it's just like the just say no, Nancy Reagan thing. It's ridiculous and naive. It shows that there's no comprehension of the mindset of people that start using drugs or people that have become addicts. It just shows that there's no understanding of the addict mentality. That's my point. It's pathetically naive. I'll be back later with another video. I hope this gets past YouTube. My whole purpose here is to stress the fact that recovery is possible. Drugs are bad. I wasted I literally wasted 2.5 decades of my life and burnt bridges with my family and friends and jobs that I lost and cars that I crashed. 2.5 decades of wasted life. The last 18 years of my life have been the best years I've ever had in my life. Recovery is possible. Have a good Friday.